Doug Grean, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Am I pronouncing your last name right, first of all, before we get even...
Yeah,
okay.
That's perfect.
Grean, perfect. All right, because
Yeah.
I think I had a week to practice it, so I think it was good. How you feeling, by the way? Are you feeling all right?
I'm great. Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Sorry about last week. That was really messed up.
No. If you were feeling ill, I completely understand. That's the beauty about podcasting. And we were just doing a new segment before, we were hyping up Starman, talking about that, and how also Other Doug. Yeah, because Other Doug that we have on the line, and I told you about. I have to call you Other Doug. That's the only way I can do it.
I'll accept it.
Thank you. So Other Doug, in addition to seeing you play a bunch of times, he's also a sci-fi nerd. So we were just wrapping up the news segment, which with the amount of work that in your resume, Doug, you have to have experienced copyright or people ripping things off in your life. I don't know has that ever become a problem for you?
No, not really.
Well, good.
Good. That was a lot more important back in the 90s and before. But once we started making music on computers, it's really hard to rip people off because there's time-stamped recorded data.
Yeah.
You can go back to. But if you're ripping off something from the 80s, there's no data, no timestamp. But, the big thing is leaking things. Like if U2's new record got leaked, that would be really bad. But there's, it's not that much. The way I look at copyright infringement is if somebody steals my song, the only way I'm ever going to know about it is if he makes a hit out of it. And if he makes a hit out of it, I hold it to him forever because I'm going to sue him and get all the money. So,
No, I hear you. And I'll just wrap up this part and we can get into our conversation. I just appreciate, of course, you taking the time. But we were just talking about how the GNR did a fan promotion last year where they asked fans to submit cover songs. And a year later, they start getting removed. And it's just a weird, I guess there's a weird copyright with fans because a lot of fan videos are taken down. No one trying to make money, just fan sites. So it's just something that the community itself has gone through. And it just sucks. I mean, especially...
Well, I had it happen to me. Sony came after me last month and blocked Starman on YouTube. And it was terrible because we had just had an article that came out and we were getting a lot of extra plays, and they blocked it. And they sent me this really innocuous email that said copyright infringement and nothing else. Not what it was or where it was, nothing I could go in and fix. It was ridiculous.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've experienced that. There's nothing that guide you towards what they're talking about. It's just well, you got to take down the video.
That's what I mean. And I don't know if a person you've met across your career, Mike Squires from Loaded, who did our theme song. He has something called Couch Riffs where he just hangs out with a rock star on his couch. Duff McKagan was there once, and they just jam along to a song on their Spotify or whatever, and they're taken down. And then I don't know, it's just ridiculous. But whatever, that's not important right now. What's important is I tell everyone, including Other Doug, I appreciate your time, but I really, when I first sent you the email and just interested in you as a person, I didn't know this was going to be the first time you would speak about your friend Scott. So just as someone else who has lost, people unexpectedly or just whatever you may have gone through or going through, just taking the time, I appreciate that. And I know it's been 3 years, but I just want to say I'm sorry for your loss.
Well, thanks, man.
Same here.
Appreciate that.
No, of course. And we don't have to go straight into that. Don't worry. We want to find out more about you. And, of course, before you even forget, because I love how right away, and you were nice about it. I don't know why I left it out of the email. I always say, hey, can we talk about you, whatever GNR, Guns N' Roses tie there is, and whatever you're doing now? Because I always want it to be a character build, a profile, whoever I'm doing, maybe of the characters that we may not know about as much. So when you sent me that your sci-fi thing, is this something that you've always wanted to do as a kid? Like when you were young, did you want to be in filmmaking? Did you want to be a musician? And like, what was Little Doug like? A little bit. And where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in New York, and Little Doug was just kind of obsessed with stuff, so I would get on one thing and just kind of go all full tilt on it. So what I was doing was I was into photography really hardcore. I had my own dark room, was basically a closet in my house, and then somebody gave me a guitar, and it was all downhill from there, basically. And then about 10 years ago, I started getting back into video. And stuff, but I never thought I would make a TV show or a movie. I was just making band videos for the longest time. Like, I would make videos of my bands, really high quality HD videos of my band that nobody really wanted to watch that much. But eventually, I thought, well, I want to do something a little deeper than a music video. Not that music isn't deep, but like I wanted to do some of the dialogue and and
something scripted and work of fiction sort of thing.
I wanted to do scripted, weirdness, basically. It's supposed to have a little bit of flavor of Twin Peaks.
Okay, sure.
So just be kind of weird. And then, and I started thinking, well, I'm going to have to write something then. And so I started writing the script. And, they say, you should write what you know about. And what I tried writing when I was younger. I tried writing a book when I was like 20. I had nothing to write about. I was like, main character goes to bar.
You didn't have enough life experience at that time?
Drinks a lot, gets drunk, comes home. Anyways, but now, 30 years later, I have a host of experience, and all my experience basically is in the music business, and a lot of fucking weird shit happens in the music business. Like, I saw all kinds of weird things and funny things and sad things and all the shit that happens behind the scenes. Like I've seen Duff McKagan eat cereal in his pajamas. No, not too many people got to see that. Now, I'm not going to put that in my show because that isn't really that famous. That isn't that funny, but it is kind of absurd.
Well, I mean, does he wear a onesie with the butt flap, or was it like, girls might want to know boxers or brief? Does he sleep in commando? Like,
oh, I don't know. I never saw him that far deep.
No, but that's a surreal moment for sure.
He just had like sweats on or something, but it was interesting. And then another thing I thought it was bizarre was once we were stopped at the Canadian border at like 5 a.m. and it was snowing and it was just getting light, and everyone has to get out of the bus no matter who you are. So Slash had to get out of the bus, Scott had to, everybody. You can't. It doesn't matter. You could be Elvis Presley. You'd have to get out of the bus and go look at the lady. And so, seeing Slash kind of hop across this big parking lot in his pajamas, but wearing his black leather coat and his slippers, and he's kind of bounding through the snow. It was the most surreal thing I've ever seen. You know what I mean? You don't see this kind of stuff.
So that sounds like some of my late night beer runs to the gas station.
Right. Yeah. Except you're not Slash.
Yeah. Oh, but I like, though, that Slash had the presence of mind not to catch cold that he put on the leather jacket. Or was it just to be cool?
I think it's because it's his only jacket.
Possibly.
It's cool because it's not a costume. He didn't leave it in wardrobe. He wears that fucking thing everywhere he goes. So it's it speaks to his sincerity.
So then you look at like those kind of moments or people that you've dealt with where, yes, it's real life. These things are really happening, but it's like these people are. It's like alien to me. Like, is that why you felt like you had to add like sci-fi to your story? And I want to make sure I put it the way you wrote it to me because I thought it was beautiful. Starman is about a washed-up, drug-addicted rock star that finds himself being hunted down by a killer from another planet. The main character is lightly based on Scott, but it's not him really much at all. It's the actor. The actor that plays my guy is 67, so more like a Keith Richards type. So there are people who think Keith Richards is from another planet? Did you just decide to say, you know what, I'm going to make him from another planet?
You know, I'll tell you, that's a good guess, but that's not why.
Okay.
The reason I put the sci-fi in there was because Scott used to get to the point in his chemical, he would get to the point pretty much every day where the chemicals in his bloodstream would trigger some kind of psychosis, right? Every fucking day, okay? None of them were illegal. They were legal drugs, but they were prescription drugs, and he would take too many of them. And at about 9 p.m., almost every day, he would start to experience some signs of psychosis. And this went on for like 15 years.
Wow.
And he went on till the day he died. I know all the drugs that he was taking, but I don't want to mention them because I don't want to get murdered by the pharmaceutical companies. But anyway, so it made him so over the years he had a lot of different psychosis, and they would when he'd get one, it would last for like a year, and then he'd move on to another. And at one point, when we were making the Velvet Revolver record, he thought that the aliens were following him, and that's why we have that song, or they have that song on that record, Feeding the Alien Sometimes.
Yeah, Loving the Alien. Loving the Alien.
Loving the Alien.
I was just listening. Oh, that's the last song on that first record.
Yeah. So around that time, his psychosis was aliens. So I just went. Wow. I postulated. I said, "What if?" And we all. This is a really interesting point. We didn't know what to do because it's not necessarily illegal for a guy to abuse his medications until he acts psycho. That's not necessarily illegal in America.
You're right.
So we had to just sit there and let him do it. You can't throw them in rehab against their will. You just can't do that in America, and you can't, cut off their supply of drugs. You can't do that in America. There's really nothing you can do. And we have a prescription medication epidemic in this country right now.
Yes.
Of epic proportions.
Yes, we talk about that.
This is one story. This is one other story in the big ocean of stories about prescription medication abuse that ended with people dying.
Doug, I'm glad you're talking about that, and that's something that we speak about on the show. Last episode, when I interviewed Brian Head Welch, his daughter, they just came out with a documentary about. It was supposed to be initially about his return to Korn, but it ended up being about substance abuse and how it affects the family. And I've been honest on this show, and it's how I talk about Guns N' Roses and why Guns N' Roses means so much to me. I felt like I identified with Axl's anger issues, and even with Scott, I've talked about my because I'm on Cymbalta, and I know that, and I'm open about when there's a certain milligram of how my head and my stomach don't feel right, but I've tried different medications, but when I'm off it, I'm so angry. There's a level, and I'm very open about therapy because I don't expect anyone. In our community, people need. That's what Head said to me. He really appreciates that I'm talking about it because people are afraid to talk about it, or they're ashamed to talk about it, and they don't know what to do. Yeah. Like in the case with Scott, they don't know what to do. So hopefully, at a time, when it's appropriate, we can take some of these companies and say, you know what, this isn't right for these people. It may be right for me, or maybe right for person B, but Scott, I mean, to deal with that for 15 years, I don't know. As a friend, that must have been so trying on you as a friend, because there's a lot of bad times, I would assume.
Yeah, there were lots of bad times, dude. But there were also a lot of good times and a lot of like hilarious times. The bad times were more frequent as time went by, he got less fun to be around in the last 5 years. But the guy that I first met in 1996 was a really nice guy, and funny, and not at all the way he was when he died. The analogy I use is Gollum. He was a nice fuzzy hobbit when I met him, and then these prescription drugs turned him into Gollum.
Huh.
All skinny and pale, and he wasn't losing his hair like Gollum did, but you know what I mean? It was like precious. Give me the precious. You know?
I know the analogy is a light analogy, but I know what you're talking about. And the thing I didn't even mention, which I've said on the show before, so my listeners kind of know, my dad passed away from prescription drugs and depression, essentially.
Oh, no. I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Well, thank you. I mean, he initially, went the Chris Cornell, Chester Bennington kind of route, and it was. I found it very interesting, very cathartic, and I'm glad when SDP said it. I forget, was it SDP or was it his family? Maybe you'll correct me. It's like he was committing suicide for 15 years, like a slow. And
it was a slow motion suicide. Absolutely. I mean, everything he did, it was like he smoked cigarettes like as hard as I've ever seen anyone smoke them. He drank booze as hard as anyone I'd seen drink booze. You know what I mean? Like, he was very committed to everything he did. So, yeah, this was going to... I was sure, everyone was sure that it was going to end up in an overdose, and I was surprised, like, many times that he wasn't dead. Like, when I went in to wake him up, it was always like my worst fear was to be the guy to find him with the, with no heartbeat. But that wasn't, I didn't get that. I got to dodge that one. But anyways, he... I forgot my train of thought. What was I doing? What was the point?
Well, let's go. What was he like when you first met him? What was the Scott Weiland when you first, like, how did you first come across, and where were you in your career? Because, you've worked with it's not just like with Scott, but like Glenn Campbell and Sheryl Crow. You have like a great list, but Scott was a major part of your career with Velvet and Solo and, TV shows. So did your life change when you met him, or like how did your paths kind of cross, and where did you meet?
My life changed when I met him, but it was a really slow kind of thing. It wasn't like overnight I was rich and happy.
Were you overnight best friends? Were you like, did we just become best friends? Yup. And was it, or?
Pretty close to that. I think he didn't have a lot of friends in his life. It was very sad. That's another alcoholic addict thing where he was very isolative, and if that's a word, he was very isolating. He liked to isolate. Anyways,
I gotcha.
So he knew my brother because they were in rehab together, and that's where I first met him. And then he was in rehab with my brother again, like 2 years later, which is totally... But it's not that crazy statistically if you realize how many rehabs he'd been to. So anyways, the second time he ended up in rehab with my brother, we were like family. So that's when he asked me to come work at the studio. And I had my own studio, and I said, yeah, I'll come. He wanted me to come get his shit together over there because they had been partying for months in that place, and it wasn't even working and blah, blah, blah. So I said, yeah, I'll help you out. I was just going to help out at first, and then we wrote a song together. And then I ended up moving all my gear into his studio, and then it became our studio. And then, 15 years later, Bob's your uncle. That's how it started. And he was just a nicer guy, He was more himself, I think, more the real guy. And, I think he just slowly changed over time. Everyone changes over time, but, he lost some of his warmth, I think, I don't know.
You look at pictures from his early career later on, he looks like a completely different person.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't chubby, but he had some meat on his bones. He had that fiery red hair. He just always looked very vibrant and just ready to kick ass. And he just sort of lost that over time.
Yeah, he's the only person I've ever seen change their body type. Like, he was chunky, or he was he was like a linebacker or a quarterback or a football player. And he starved himself to the point where he was like a fashion model all of a sudden. He was all just skin and bones. And I was like, and he kept it for his whole life. I was like, how did you change your body? He did it. I don't know how he did it.
What did you think, I guess, changed? If he was was it stress of certain band stuff or family? Because I know everyone's different. It could be chemical. It's a variety of things.
Well, no, it wasn't. I don't think he was taking any diet aids. He wasn't into that speed stuff. He was into the other stuff. But
no, I mean like a chemical imbalance, like mental health.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh no, I don't think it was that. It was just one year he got obsessed with working out, and he was so obsessed that, like, he would work out in the morning, and then, like, we'd go out to lunch and he would eat a piece of bread and he'd be like, I got to go back to the gym. I swear to God. He did. I'd seen him do it several times. So I think he just wanted, it was around the time Velvet Revolver was forming, and I think he just wanted to be super ultra ripped because he was going to be replacing Axl Rose, He was very nervous about that. He was a huge fan. I'll tell you a story. No one knows this story. I was there in his living room the day that the project sent over the CD, like a messenger had sent over a CD of some song ideas from Duff and Slash to get Scott interested in being the singer. And this is, so this is about 9 months before their first song, right? And he goes, wow. I just, he tells me what it is because I didn't know what was going on. And I said, well, were you going to do it? And he's like, I can't sing with Slash and Duff. I can't take over Axl Rose's place. I just can't do it. He didn't like celebrity that much. You know what I mean? He could have hung out with all kinds of famous people, and he never did. So I think he was just, it was a little intimidating to him. And then 9 months later, they offered him a super sweet deal on the soundtrack. And
the Hulk soundtrack, right?
Set Me Free, Hulk.
No, it was the
Italian Job, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
the cover of the Pink Floyd.
Yes, right? yes, absolutely.
They threw a huge chunk of change at them to do that cover, and that started. Scott was very friendly and liked to collaborate, and so once they did one song, it was like that was it. There was a band. You know what I mean? But initially, he was intimidated, didn't want to have anything to do with it.
So it was just doing that first song, and did he go forward thinking, oh, wow, if they're going to throw this much money at us to do a song, imagine what an album would do? Or did he just say, you know what, I can do this, I can work with these guys and do a new band and make it my own thing?
Yeah, that's, I think, the second one. He wasn't very calculating, like, oh, wow, we're going to milk this one. He just felt comfortable doing the first song, like you said, and they were so, listen, when I first met Slash and Duff, the first day they were like, Slash and Duff are coming to the studio, the management. I was nervous, and I thought, these guys, there's no way these guys aren't dicks, I just thought there's no way that they could get this far in this epic career of theirs and not be kind of ruined by it.
Oh, wow, okay.
Well, it turned out absolutely the opposite. They're super, super sweethearts. So I think Scott probably, when he saw they were super, super sweethearts, he was like, yeah, this is cool. Let's do this.
Well, that's interesting, because I'm assuming that none of you had met them before. Because that's what you always hear about Slash and Duff. They're nice guys, but if you had a perception, which I assumed was just based upon other experiences and people that you've met, that they were going to be dicks, but you had this was the first time you met them when Velvet Revolver was coming together. So you never crossed paths before?
Dicks is a hard word. Aloof or...
Curmudgeon? Or like a curmudgeon?
Yeah, or snotty, or just above everything. I just thought that, these guys are fucking epic figures in American history.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I used to tell people, when we'd be out in the world touring, we'd go through a lot of airports because we did a lot of, like, fly dates. And people would see us with our guitars, and they'd go, oh, who do you guys play for? And we'd be like, nobody, you're not going to know. And they're like, no, tell us who you play for. And we'd be like, Scott Weiland. And they'd be like, who? Every time they'd be like, who? And then we'd go, Stone Temple Pilots? And he'd go, 8 out of 10 would say, who? And then we'd say, he plays with Slash. And they go, oh, Slash! Like bus driver, or like the lady that makes your bed at the hotel.
Right.
Everybody knows Slash.
That's exactly why I do. I mean, yes, they're my favorite band, but I thought it was a good idea to do a podcast, not because it's my favorite band, but everybody knows who Axl Rose and Slash are. Maybe not Duff, but like you said, someone who makes your bed, the sorority girl. They know Welcome to the Jungle.
Think about this, though. Think about this. how many guitar players can you identify in silhouette? There's
Good point.
Jimmy Page if he has the double neck.
Right.
Jimi Hendrix, no doubt, and Slash.
Mm.
You know?
That's fair.
You know Slash when you see him. He is, I don't think he did it on purpose, but he is the product of a really great marketing campaign. He basically picked out a great name, Slash. No last name, who needs it? And he picked an outfit that worked really well for him and a hairstyle that worked really well for him, and he kept it. And he picked a guitar that he liked. And now, I don't think he did it on purpose. I think that is just exactly how he likes to be. But it turned into it's almost like a logo, you know, the top hat and the afro.
Well, what about Scott himself too? He was into fashion. I think more so when he became, like you mentioned before, he was like a model going into Velvet Revolver. But even growing up in the grunge era, I always felt like he was somebody to look to as a kid that dressed cool, you know. And I feel like when in Velvet Revolver, when he started wearing what I call like the M. Bison hat from Street Fighter. Hadouken! Or what, like the army hat? What would you call it? Like those military kind of style hats?
Like
SS hat.
It's almost like the uniform. I think Axl Rose, didn't Axl like wear that sometimes too? Or it was like kind of like the leather, like, you know.
Yeah,
and,
sometimes, but
Rob Halford, you know.
But
the leather, like, I don't want to say Nazi. It's kind of, but still, like, sort of like leather, like.
What's this? He got in trouble in Germany for wearing that fucking hat. It doesn't have a SS anywhere on it, but there is a death skull, like a death's head skull on the front. And the Germans took him to fucking task for that. They were pissed. He had to apologize, basically, because they're that strict over there. But yeah, it's a military hat. I don't think it's even a German hat, but it looked too much like a fucking SS hat.
So when you guys first met, what was your first project? I know we're going back a little bit, but I kind of want to, know like you're because Scott could have written with a lot of people. He met a lot of people, but you guys were writing buddies, and he took you along. Or I shouldn't say took you along. You went along with the ride with him to SDP and the Wild About. So. Do you remember the first song you guys wrote together, or the first big project?
Yeah, I remember. I remember the song. I'm blanking on the name right now, but it was like the second day I was in the studio. But my first project at the Scott Weiland studio was to find all the syringes and get rid of them. They were like, you have to go in there and you have to de-dopify the place. And I was like, all right, I'm sober, I can do it. Anyway, so the first song was I can't remember, but it was actually Scott and me and Eric Kretz came over, and he played drums on it, and I played guitar and bass, and Scott sang, and it was a ballad, and it was cool. It was a B-side. It was definitely not a hit, but I was fucking jazzed. I went home to my other job, which was my home, my other studio. And I was just walking on air. I was just like, hey, I just did a song with Scott Weiland. Listen to this. Blah, blah, blah. It was pretty fun for me. Probably not as fun for him. And to answer your question, I think he liked writing with me because we were friends and because I'm a good writing partner. I'm very good at, like, filling in blanks. I'm very good at writing with singers, especially if they don't play a lot of instruments and they need help with the musical aspects, And, like he would come in with a verse, with like two chords and a melody, and he says, this is a verse. And then I would listen to what he's doing, and then I would write the chorus, and he would sing on it, and then I would come up with it, kind of glue everything together. And so I think he liked that too, But I think mostly it was just he liked, he didn't want to go out meet new people to write with because he didn't like new people.
I get that. I understand that. I think I was actually talking to my girlfriend earlier about it. I wouldn't mind just moving to Wyoming or Antarctica, just be away from people. I mean, I might go stir crazy after a few months, but I could definitely be away from people for a while because I have that introvert thing and why I feel, identified with Scott or Axl. Did you find it hard? Because I know sometimes I do around being around other people who are doing stuff. Like, thankfully, most of my friends were just potheads. That because I feel like if they weren't, if I had friends that were into hard drugs, I probably would have done hard drugs. I had that mentality. It sucks whether it's pot or if it's cookies. Like I'm like, oh, cookies, you just shove my. Like I'm a cookie monster. Like I have the addictive personality. Like I know I would have done it. So I don't know what kind of person you were. Maybe was it? Did you ever have your demons, or was it something that was never part of? Okay.
I'm a drug addict. I'm a sober drug addict.
Right on.
I went to the rehab that Scott met my brother in like a year before, and it was also the same rehab that Kurt Cobain jumped the wall and then a few days later killed himself. It was kind of a famous rock star rehab, but it wasn't fancy. It was really dirty. Anyway, so I know all about drugs, and it was one of the reasons why I was able to stay around Scott for so long was because I didn't do drugs with him ever.
Really?
If you came into the family or the organization, which was very small, and you started doing drugs with Scott, management and record company would see you as the enemy because you're enabling and you're, listen, misery loves company, and he had better shot staying sober without having like another drug addict around that wants to get high with him. You know what I mean? Of course. He would just. So that's if I had been getting high with him, I would have been gone after a year probably because he was that. It was just that hard to kind of help him stay on the straight and narrow. And so I was a good influence. We would go to meetings sometimes, or we would. I don't know, whatever we would do, but. And then I took him to rehab like 11 times or something, like so many times, so many different rehabs. Every one of them with like a funny story attached to it because he didn't want to go. So we would, he would, several times we had limos. I don't know why we needed a limo to go to rehab, but he would just have us going all over town before we would get there. We'd finally get there at like 1 a.m. after like making 10 stops, and it's just. Anyways, there are probably a lot of stories I can't tell you here on the show. But,
hey, no, I understand. A lot of it is personal to you, and I appreciate what you're talking to us about. Thus far, just in general, and just being here. I would have been. I think I told you I would have been fine just talking about sci-fi nerd stuff, but I appreciate that you're being open with it because it is difficult. I didn't want to go to AA until my therapist said she wouldn't see me anymore. And she did, and she said it. I know she meant it out of love. She's like, I'm not going to be able to help you if you don't do stuff to help yourself. So I reluctantly went. I think recently it was just 3 years without a drink. Because it became. Thank you. I mean, not to say
congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, not to say I don't have other demons, but nothing dangerous, like that. Right. And I have to be aware of it, and I'm glad that you were a good influence and a good friend, and that's I can't imagine how difficult that was for you at times when you're fighting your own demon, especially when you had your brother as well. And I forgive me for not knowing. I hope your brother's okay.
Yeah, he's still sober.
Okay, good. Mazel tov.
Forever. Yeah,
it's every day is a challenge. So that's why I admire Duff McKagan and Slash and people who have seemingly beat it, and why I was rooting. We all were rooting so hard for Scott. Because obviously these conversations will organically take us to this point because this is where we are now, unfortunately, with Scott. But I want to keep interjecting good stuff. When was I guess the first? Because you talked about your first writing experience, but when did you start working with Stone Temple Pilots? Like, when did that become like a reality, and what was your involvement? Because you do a lot of things. You play, obviously you're an engineer, you play guitar, you do play a lot of instruments. So did you just always go like whatever need you needed to be filled, or were you looking to be like another member to a band? Like, what was your kind of path that you were going along with?
Well, that's exactly what I still do. I just fill in the cracks for whatever artist I'm working for, because I play like 5 instruments, and I also program drums and make rap beats and fucking record things, and I have several different, and then I mix. You have to do that to make a living in the music business, dude. That's all there is to it.
Sure.
If you do one thing, like if you just play bass, good luck. You're going to be in a wedding band. And there's nothing against wedding bands. They're great. I tried to join one. They wouldn't have me. Anyways.
No, I hear you. Same thing in radio. Beginning of my career, I just thought I can just jibber jabber, but now I got a production, editing, board op, all this stuff. So, yeah, you got to be a jack of all trades. But I just didn't know for you, yeah, you can do all these things, but you know what? I want to be a lead guitarist of a band, or I want to be a producer of records. I didn't know if you had like a set path, or just being a jack of all trades is cool in itself, and that's just the path you're going on. Like I didn't know what your goal was, if you had one or have one.
Well, my goal is just to make music, basically, right?
Cool.
And I'm a musician first, so I came here to make music, and I was here for like a year, and I was like, you know what, this isn't happening. I'm going to be a producer instead, because it's just the music scene here in LA was trash. It was just, and it still kind of is. It's just not a great place to play around, and but I still had bands that I was in just for fun. Like I still have bands that I'm in just for fun. It would be great if they had some kind of success, but I don't really bank on it. So yeah, I started looking towards production, but mostly because I just wanted to be able to create and do it as quickly and as unhindered as I could. So I had to learn I had to master all these different devices that are included, like Pro Tools and, a Neve console and, blah, blah, blah. So, and the thing with STP was, once I became friends with Scott and we had the studio together in Burbank, he just pulled me into everything, man. When he sang on the Limp Bizkit record, he brought me to that session just because he felt like he needed a wingman, I didn't actually do any engineering at all. I just went and I was a wingman until he felt comfortable, and then I was like, I'm out of here.
That's cool. I forgot he was on Limp Bizkit record.
Yeah, he was on, what was the name of the song?
Oh, the Doug, do you remember?
He was on the...
Chocolate Starfish, right?
He was on a couple, yeah. He was on Chocolate Starfish. Hold On. I know he was on that track on Chocolate Starfish, but he was on the '99 record too. It was him and a few other guys. I'm trying to think of that song. They actually had it in an episode of The Simpsons, I think.
Oh wow, I should know that then, because I'm a Simpsons freak. I'm gonna.
I don't remember what the song is called, but yeah, no, the one on Chocolate Starfish, it was Scott singing guest. Hold On. It's actually a great song. I'm not really a big Bizkit fan by any means, but it was a good track. He made that track work.
Yeah, I'm looking up. I'm looking now. I do see the Hold On, and Nobody Like You with Jonathan Davis from Korn.
That was it. That was the other one I was thinking of. There was an episode of The Simpsons that they played like samples from that track on it. Actually.
Oh wow. Wow. Okay. Simpsons trivia. Thank you, Doug. I know we have you here for a reason. I appreciate it.
Yes. I'm a walking pile of useless information.
So Doug, that's got to be like the amount of people that you have, like, just meeting through him. Did you ever say, like, were you still thinking like, hey, I'm with Scott Weiland, or it's just like my buddy Scott, and you were just like that kind of?
I don't know. You always kind of have the feeling, hey, I'm with Scott Weiland, the famous guy, in the back of your head, but the more you hang out with him, the less the famous part even occurs to you. And yeah, there were a lot of people. Like there was just a parade of like famous people, and also like big management guys. They're almost scarier than like a superstar. They're, like the Firm was this place that is closed now that had all the big management, and this was for the music business. And those guys would be around, and they were actually kind of famous too. And so it was freaky, but I'm really good at not getting fazed by that shit. I don't care. I'm there to make music and help any way I can. And if Irving Azoff walks in, everything stops because we all have to talk to Irving. Not that I don't like Irving. He's cool. But if the management walks in, all of a sudden we're going to have a business meeting, and music making is going to stop for a while. So that was kind of annoying. But anyways, going back to the STP thing, yeah, they were mad at him because they were always mad at him, and he felt kind of lonely in that dynamic, and he dragged me into those last 3 records. Like, he was just like, I was his wingman. And then I also, in the first one, number 4, I was just involved in the writing. Like he and I would sit in the studio in Burbank and we would listen to what the guys had given him, and then he would write to it, and I would record whatever he wrote. So those were the demos. But for the next one, I did a lot of recording, and I even did, for Shangri-La I did a lot of the recording, and I did some of the producing even. I didn't get credit. And then for the last one, I recorded all the vocals at Art Old Studio. Anyways, he just brought me in because he, I was his guy. I was Scott's guy, and that was weird in the beginning because they were mad at Scott. So Scott's guy all of a sudden was kind of a bad guy to begin with.
So did you get along with them? Like, how was your relationship with the other members of STP, the DeLeo brothers?
DeLeo Bros and Kretz.
Well, they were very wary of me at first, as they should have, because all of the guys that Scott brought around usually were like, drug suppliers. And I had to kind of earn their approval. And I think I did eventually. Cool. They thought that I was enabling him at times, I think. And I thought that I wasn't. We had a few arguments about that, but I think they eventually figured out that I was a power for good in his life, and then they stopped giving me any grief at all. But they're all good guys, man. And I worked with Robert at his house studio for a long time, and then I worked with Kretz at his studio. It was just an amazing studio he used to have. So this is after Scott introduced me to them. So I kind of worked with each one of them alone and have our own relationships apart from STP. I don't talk to them very often anymore, but they're excellent dudes.
Do you something that we've talked about on the show? Obviously, it's a little different with GNR and lineup changes because everyone is still around. But we came across it with Axl taking place of Brian Johnson, AC/DC, and Kiss comes up. Is Kiss going to continue with no original members at some point? I think Paul and Gene have said yes, of course, anywhere to make a buck. But it's interesting, like Alice in Chains has had a lot of success, great records, with William Duvall. But there was a lot of time when Alice in Chains reemerged. And again, this is me. I'm not, you can just say, keep your opinion, secret if you want. I thought, as a fan who misses Scott, I felt it was too soon. However, I will never tell anyone how to grieve, which is what I learned. So I don't know what their process was or is. Do you like that they're out now making music? Are you happy for them?
I am happy for them, actually. I'm happy for them because he hindered them for a long time. He got in the way of making a lot of great music because, it wasn't his intention to do that. It was just his addiction. Mm. Right. So I know they had years of frustration. So I'm really glad to see that they can do it scot-free, not to make fun of it. But, they just didn't go well together anymore, even if he was alive. I don't know if they would I guess they would have a reunion someday, but that doesn't count for anything anymore because reunions to me all that means to me is somebody put a big enough number on the table. That's what I told people back in the day of of Velvet Revolver. Everyone would ask me, "Hey, you ever get Guns N' Roses back there?" And I said it every time. I said, as soon as the offer gets big enough, all grudges will be settled. And sure enough, that's what happened. So I'm happy for them, and I also know. Listen, you got to be realistic. They got to make a living. They got kids and stuff. They're going to go to college soon. And,
sure.
This is their livelihood. So I'm happy for them. I haven't watched the videos or anything because I just don't want to know. I hear the guy's good, but I don't want to.
Jeff Good is a great frontman. They did a great job. I like Chester Bennington. He's a great vocalist, great rock frontman. I always said, if you check out all the production from not Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, he would have been a great, just pure rock vocalist. And they did well with him, but I think Jeff Good is. I don't know if you've listened to it, Brandon.
I have. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great record. And, you know, they made a great choice, and, you know, all the power, and, you know, best of luck to them.
You know, he's from, I think, the X Factor initially or something, some reality. Or
So
something.
he was, like, originally he was in a band. It was kind of one of Limp Bizkit's, like, peers, like, early 2000s, called Limp Bizkit Linkin Park, like the new metal era. They're called Dry Cell. And Dry Cell, I think, broke up after a couple of records. I actually knew them, so like it's weird because like I saw this guy Jeff Goot actually in a Dry Cell covering an STP song probably like 10 years ago on YouTube. I would have never, you know, he would have been STP's frontman one day.
Life's funny, and I also look at like you never know what it's going to mean to Jeff, you know, because it's not I'm sure Scott means a lot to him. You know, for me, Scott's, I mean, obviously I can't compare it to Doug's feelings, but it's just awkward for me to see it now. I think I need more time. And I totally get that from you, Doug, if that's the case, because, you know, you want to see your friend up there. I get it. And I had it was a cool conversation with a little while ago with Christopher Thorne from Blind Melon. And obviously, you know, Shannon Hoon passed away quite a while ago. And,
I knew him too.
Oh, you knew? He was another great. And
I was in rehab with him, man.
You were in rehab with
For
Shannon
weeks.
Hoon. Wow.
3 weeks in rehab, and then we lived in the sober living house together for a couple months, and then they took him to the first tour, and I was like, "Don't go."
Oh, no, don't go. Like you would miss him, or you don't think he was? You didn't think he was ready to leave?
No, the first date was Amsterdam, dude. He wasn't ready to leave. He wasn't ready to leave sober living. He had like a month sober maybe, and they took him out on the road, and that was a bad thing the industry used to do. Is they used to, you know, kind of ignore your addiction or your medical problem, whatever your problem is. Just go out there and you got to support the record. Got to support the record. Doesn't matter if you just got out of rehab. Boom, you're out on the road.
Things are changing now, even in sports and, you know, concussion protocol. Instead of like just go back out there, it's become a thing, which, you know, unfortunately we had to deal with tragedies to get to this point. But what I loved about Chris, and I'll parlay it to SDP, he's making less money because he became a producer, and he's like, I didn't get a chance to play these songs with Shannon because he died before the second record. We could tour.
Oh, he has a studio in Silver Lake, right?
Yeah, it's called Fireside Studio, something like that. Yeah. Something like. But he's a awesome guy. He played I think over the summer here in the city, and I saw him at Le Poussin Rouge. It was a nice little place, but wow, someone should make. Speaking of like shows and what you can do, I feel like there needs to be like a rehab show of rock stars. Especially, you could be the only one to tell it at this point. Who dealt with Scott Weiland, Shannon Hoon. It used to be what Kurt Cobain used to be. I don't know. Maybe I'm just. You guys are the story writers. I'm just the radio guy. So. If you want to take that idea and run with it, just maybe give me credit when it's produced or something like that. So when did so you told us a little bit about the Velvet Revolver stuff. How was that trip, that process? Because that was, I think, unexpected for it to do so well. And a lot of people weren't sure but Audio Slave just came out before as a super group, and they were really successful. So in addition to just be like, oh wow, I'm going to play with Slash and Duff and Matt Sorum, and I will even say David Kushner, former guest of the show. What did you foresee the success that Velvet would have?
I knew they would sell a certain amount of records, but I didn't think it was going to go platinum. But I don't know, man. I tell all my bands, and I just had a band finish yesterday from San Diego, a real good band called Murder of Five. They sound a lot like Alice in Chains. But I tell all my bands, I don't know a hit song when I hear it. I don't know the magic part of this shit. I don't have any natural ability to pick a hit. Because usually I'll pick the wrong song. Like I worked on a Sheryl Crow record, right? And I worked on like 3 of the songs that weren't hits. And one day, Rick Rubin came into the studio, and Cheryl pulled out this new song, and she said, "Rick, you want to hear my new song?" And it was that song, "Soak Up the Sun."
Yeah.
And so she played it for us, and I thought, this is dog shit. Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin was like, I love it, Cheryl. It's a hit.
I actually have a giant soft spot for that song. It brings me back. I'm a younger guy, like, I'm 25 years old, and it's kind of like that was a good song, like driving around with my mom, like going shopping, soak up the sun. Like she'd be playing that.
Right on. But I'm with you, Doug. Though I'm not. I think that song is dog shit. I'm more of the old school Sheryl Crow, like the 1994 Sheryl Crow. That's what I like. That's what I want to do.
I was trying to push her back that way, and I was also trying to make her a little more mysterious and a little more, I don't know, vibey, because that's my thing, is darkness and vibe. And so I did a bunch of that stuff on 3 of the songs, but, I knew that Soak Up the Sun was catchy. I just, that wasn't what I was into at the time, And I was just like, but, it was, money-wise, it was a great move, but it wasn't really what I was into, so I thought, dog shit. But it was the Rick Rubin story that's important there.
Yeah, no, that's funny. I mean, obviously you have an ear for something, otherwise you wouldn't have the resume that you do, and you wouldn't be, a tag team champions with Scott Weiland of I don't know why I use that as an analogy, but, obviously you contribute something, but... Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have an ear for certain things, sometimes you don't, I guess, if that's not your particular genre. Because that's such a happy song. It's just like, I don't know, it belongs on the Brady Bunch soundtrack,
Right. Doug, it's a beautiful summer hit. I was just a curmudgeon,
Oh, I love it. So, what did you enjoy most? Because I appreciate your time, and I know we can't keep you here, forever. Did you enjoy working with Scott solo, STP stuff, Velvet, and how about correct me if I'm wrong, please, was the last record you worked with him the Christmas album?
No, technically the last one was the Bumblefoot thing.
Okay.
So I did the vocals on the Bumblefoot tracks, and that was the last record. But the last Scott record was, the Christmas record.
Oh, that's what I mean, the last Scott record.
Yeah.
And they were holding off on that Art of Anarchy record for a while. I know they recorded it like in 2012, and they didn't release it till 2015.
Right. How that didn't do too well. Did they try with Scott Stapp too when that fell apart?
Yeah, no, I don't know. They keep, I guess their whole method of operation is just hiring guys named Scott and then doing them. I don't know.
So many Scotts, so many Dougs in this show.
Can I say a rumor? Can we say a rumor? I don't have a source for this, but it's a rumor.
Sure, go for it.
I hear Scott Stapp is currently living in the tour bus that Scott Weiland died in. That's what I heard.
Well,
no, I think I heard that. I don't even know if it's a rumor. I think he talked about that. That he I think Scott Stapp claimed to see Scott Weiland's ghost or something like that. Like he was talking about in interviews.
Yo, I need to get him on the show. That's what needs to happen.
I actually interviewed Scott Stapp last year, and he seemed all right. Actually, he seems to be a little more put together now.
Hey, I was a fan of Creed, man. I'm not going to be one of those jumping on the Creed hate bandwagon.
Oh, no, same here. He was in a totally, like, I mean, going back to Starman, the series, like, I think he was on one of those weird, just totally out there psychosis trips, like, a few years ago.
Oh,
yeah. And that was pretty high for a while. But he's doing better now.
I hope Scott gets to be a ghost. I really hope that's true, because that would be, I think, a blast.
I hope so, too. But what was your favorite project to work with him on?
Favorite project? Favorite record or favorite song?
Whatever, you decide. What was your favorite thing you've ever worked on with Scott? I mean, it could have been just not even something that we even know about. It could be, your favorite moment that you had with Scott that maybe you think about the most often in fondness memory.
Well, as far as just, the best times, I'd say it was like 2005 to like 2010 when we had our record company and we had money from Sony and we were kind of rolling for a minute there until we went bankrupt. and those were good times. Because we were working on.
Soft Drive does not exist anymore. Soft Drive Records.
I think it died with Scott. I think that all the paperwork was somewhere in his storage unit. So, but I think it died with him. But we had a lot of great bands that we got to work with. And then so that was like the funnest stuff. And then I guess my favorite song. It's hard to say, but I really like this weird song on Happy and Galoshes called Pictures and Computers. And I like it so much that I put it in Starman for like 10 seconds.
I noticed. It was in the intro.
That's awesome. No, that's really cool. I want to, before I even forget, I want to play, for all the Guns N' Roses fans out there, a clip from Starman, your web series. Well, they'll know why I chose this one.
Barry, what do you want?
He did it again.
Do what?
He pulled a knife on Slash last night in the alley behind the Troubadour.
Speak up, I got somebody behind me. Hold on.
Slash says he's suing.
Why is the city suing me?
Slash is.
Who?
Slash is suing Edwin.
Oh, Edwin?
He's got to stop this shit. He's got to stop it. Are you listening to me, Otis? Otis, are you listening to me?
You know, I really enjoyed it. It's up on YouTube, Starman, the series, and first episode's 20 minutes. And I read the description that you sent me before, and that's all I knew going into it. And I don't know why the lead guy reminded me a little bit of a Drop Dead Fred, that kind of character, and it was really enjoyable. There were definitely laugh out loud moments when he was trying to do the collab with the rap artist, and it's
Doug. I don't mean to cut you off, Brandon, but
go ahead.
Mention that. It's been burning me with curiosity because that part was like earnestly hilarious. Like I watched it with a friend, we were both laughing our asses off. Then seeing where he's trying to make a collaboration with a rap artist. But was that based on anything that actually happened with you and Scott?
Yes.
Okay. Are you able to talk about that or no?
Yeah, I'll tell you the whole story. Here's an example. When Scott got out of jail in 2000, he had met some rappers, and he wanted to get into the rap game. I suspect, well, actually, I don't suspect. He told them, hey, I'll produce you as rappers if you protect me while I'm in the county jail. And so we ended up in the rap game. So we tried to make a few rap tracks for these guys. These guys are real rappers. They were from Inglewood. They were in jail for slinging rock, and they were good. So they're real gangster rappers. They actually were super nice guys, too. And but the problem was that we didn't know anything about making rap tracks. It was just foreign to us. In order to succeed in that genre, you got to kind of live it, So we made some really bad background tracks for these guys to rap on, and it's almost pathetic. I'm going to have to see if I have them somewhere. Then we got introduced to Scott Storch. You never heard of that guy?
No.
Scott Storch? Well, he was Dr. Dre's right-hand man, one of them. That year, he was on contract to Dre for $1 million. He had this... Basically, Dre said, here's $1 million check, and you have to come whenever I call you at any time.
Oh my God.
So anyway, Storch was getting kind of famous. He was getting like $20,000 a pop per song, and he knew Dr. Dre, so he got me and Scott and him a meeting with Dre. And here's what happened. We go over there. We're very nervous, all of us, even Scott, and they usher us in to the control room at Dre's studio, and he's making a beat on the MPC, which impressed me. I still think maybe he was faking it, but he was working. He was making a beat. And so Scott Storch, there was a little small talk, very short. Listen to the song, and then a little small talk, and we were sent on our way packing. And of course, we thought Dr. Dre was going to become our friends, and we were all going to be hanging out in his jacuzzi in a week or so, and you know what I mean? We had
sipping Cristal.
Yeah, we had high hopes, but I think Dre looked at us and said, "You fucking rockers are trying to come in here and it's basically moving in on his territory. You know what I mean? Without any cred, without any time, we're just trying to jump over from the rock world right into Dre world, and I don't think you like that." I might be wrong. Maybe it was just the song sucked, but I don't think he liked that. So in my show, we go to Dre, except his name is Faye. His name is Minister Faye.
Very clever. I know. That made me laugh. That was funny.
Yeah. I should have made that connection watching it, and somehow I didn't. But
I didn't either until just now. I just thought it was a funny, cool name, and then the Dr. Dre. Wow.
So then I just wrote it, and I just made it into something that was funny and cool, and ended up with us getting what we wanted, a collaboration with Faye. So that's not what we got in real life, but that's how I ended up writing it. Plus that ridiculous cocaine scene. No one's ever done that before. He didn't do that, but that was me just trying to make the drugs into like a slapstick kind of thing.
Yeah, you could tell that the way it was very cartoonish, the amount of drugs he was taking,
right.
For sure. Like, that's what was perfect. There was a balance of, this could happen, maybe this could happen, there's no way this could happen. Like, it was like a perfect flow of it all. I really dug it. No pun intended.
Man. I'm going to use that somewhere. Maybe this could happen. Yeah, what'd you say again? This could happen. Maybe this could happen.
This could happen. Maybe this could happen. No way that's happening. No, something like that. I love it. So, tell us, so what can we, because that was only episode 1. What's the plan for you going forward? In addition to the web series, Starman, are you because you said you're working with bands, what can we expect from Doug Grean going forward?
Well, I'm producing bands, and I do a lot of singer-songwriters, too, because there's a lot of that around here. And I just do that. That's what I normally do. That's basically my main gig. And then I'm going to make another episode, hopefully have it out in like a month. It takes a long time because I do almost everything. Like I had a cameraman with a Red for that first episode, and I had a gaffer, and I had audio. But then other than that, I do all the editing and all the color correction. The biggest thing is actually the audio mix. I never knew how hard those guys work. 'Cause I've never done it.
That's a pain. I know from experience.
Oh my God. It takes weeks. It's nuts. Anyway, so probably January. I also have to get permission from my wife, because the first episode pretty much turned our entire house upside down.
That was your house? That was your house?
I had it everywhere. I had lights and props and crap everywhere for like a month. So we gotta do that.
Hey, Doug, that was you. That was you in the Wolfman suit, right?
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, okay. Good catch.
I
didn't see it in the credits, but I don't know. I had a feeling that was you in the Wolfman suit.
Well, I never really wanted to be an actor, but I couldn't afford to pay another actor, so I just did it myself. Plus, you don't see his face. Here's an interesting thing that you could consider, or someone might consider. You don't see the wolf's face for a while. You don't see it for like 3 episodes. So he could end up being anyone. He could be John C. Reilly. He could be fucking Sean Connery. You know what I mean? Like, he could be any actor under there. Seth Rogen. So I don't necessarily have to be the wolf forever. I just have to have a good wolf by the time I unveil the wolf.
Okay. Is that something you're even thinking about? Like, who is going to be the person chasing him all this time? Like who's
Oh yeah, I would.
Scooby-Doo ending.
Well, the wolf is going to be no. Actually, I'm not thinking that.
Okay.
But I never thought of that. But that is an interesting idea. But that's not it. It's just the wolf becomes part of the gang.
Okay.
He stops trying to kill, and then he's just stranded on Earth, and so he hangs out with those guys because he has nowhere to go, and nobody else knows about him, and so he turns out to be like a sidekick. A weird, like, alien sidekick. Okay,
right on. So I want you, Doug. I can't thank you enough for your time, and you're always welcome back. I definitely want to see the next episode. Whether you want to come back and talk about the next episode next time, or just send me an email and I can post it on social media. Because obviously you're a busy guy working with so many different people, and I mean the show itself is an insane amount of work. I do a podcast which is not nearly as time consuming as what you're doing, and it's time consuming what I do, so I can't even imagine. So
It takes a long time.
It does.
To get a podcast, yeah, it takes a long time because in order to edit it, you have to listen to it from the beginning to the end.
I do.
That's like an hour.
Yeah, no, I do. There are a lot of people who just throw it up there. I like to have that live feel, just like our awkward introduction. But sometimes there's clicks, an awkward silence, just to, clean it up a little bit, just make it a little nice for the peoples. But how can people follow you? Because I know Starman's on YouTube. It has a Facebook page. Do they just put that in the search bar, or is there any other special keywords? Or they just, because I want to make sure they're not just getting David Bowie songs.
Yeah, I know what you mean. The best thing to do is go on Facebook and search Starman, and it's going to come up probably in the first couple of searches. If you just go to YouTube and search Starman, you're going to get a bunch of David Bowie and stuff. So it's on the Facebook page, which is basically all that stuff in Facebook/Starman. Or my personal Facebook page is Doug Grean, Grean, with a picture of my dog, so they can find the link there. Just what I would like the most is for people to watch it and share it if they like it, and that's it, really. Share it with your people that you think will get it, Certain people get it.
That's what I've been doing. I'm not, just blowing smoke. I laughed. I enjoyed it. I thought it was, I told you off air, I thought it was well cast. I didn't know because people say web series, like you just never know the quality. It's like when they say podcast. I don't know if it's going to sound like, 2 tin cans on a toilet. You just never know what it's going to sound like. But it looked good. Yeah. I really did enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to the next one. And I'll leave you here. Is there anything that you want Scott to be most remembered for? Because I always say, I grew up on Stone Temple Pilots for the most part. There was a time where I never thought Axl and Slash share the same stage again. So I saw Axl with Buckethead. Okay. Then I had my ticket to see Velvet Revolver. This is my first time I'm going to see Slash. What is this going to be like? I went to a show in New Jersey, Starland Ballroom. But I was lucky enough. I mean, I couldn't do this now because I have a neurological disability. But when I was younger and a little bit healthier with it, I would go up to a general admission show and be right up against the railing where I can hold on. And as soon as Scott came out with Sucker Train Blues, dude, my life changed. I'm like, he is.
Wow.
It's just like, this is. I remember saying, and I know it's obviously it's tongue in cheek, but I'm like, you are a fucking god. I remember screaming that. I'm like, that's what a rock star looks like. And I had idolized Axl this entire time. And when I first see him in person, he's, he has long braids. He's wearing hockey jerseys. He's not what I grew up with, even though I enjoyed the show. But Scott was like just so much more than I thought. And that's when I really did deep dives into more STP, his solo stuff. And my appreciation for him as a frontman changed that day 100%. And, it obviously broke my heart and many millions of fans across the world's hearts what happened. But again, sorry for your loss. But if there's anything that you want him to be remembered for, or what you remember him most for, what would that be?
Well, I think everyone should take their own memories and, have them. I don't want to suggest memories to people, but
that's fair.
I think he'll be remembered for his beautiful singing and his, people really connected to his voice. That's what makes a great singer. The ability to sing on key, and then if people really connect to your voice, and there's no scientific way to measure that. It's either there or it's not. So I think he'll be remembered for that. I'll tell you what, though. I was at that show, too, man. I was probably about 50 feet away from you because I had to be on the side of the stage to run my Pro Tools rig. So,
I mean, I never would have thought, all these years later. I mean, that was before. Where was I living at the time? I think I was maybe still in college during. I forget what year that was. Maybe I can tell. But wherever I was, I would not think years later I would be talking to you and having this conversation and all the things, good and bad, that's happened between then and now. It changed a lot of, he changed a lot of people's lives. And I also say what my best friend at every Christmas party every year, he puts on vinyl, the Scott Weiland Christmas record. And that's part of
Nice.
Yeah, it's like every year. I mean, it's a beautiful record. I was just watching the performance on Jay Leno. That was you, right? Did you or was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I know you have a lot of wonderful memories with your friend, and that's what I say to myself about people who I've lost. Take the good, and because we only get one shot, and we're lucky to have these people in our lives for a little bit, even though we wish it was longer. We're lucky to have had him when we did.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well said.
I try. Sometimes I say things that make sense.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. No.
I'd love to be on again in any capacity. So I'll let you know when the second episode is like ramping up promotions, and
Awesome.
hang out.
Awesome. I really appreciate that, and I look forward to it. And yeah, I have nothing else to say. I can just keep talking to you about these awesome stories. We'll save them for next time. So you just enjoy your day, and it was really nice meeting you. And until next time.
Okay, guys.
Yep.
Thanks a lot.
Yep. Thank you, Doug.
You take
One
care.
Doug to another Doug.
All right, real. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
Kwanzaa. All that fun stuff.
All right.
Bye.
Happy holidays.
Thanks to the lame ass security, I'm going home.